This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace. Hello and welcome all to Saturday Morning Mysteries. And we are your hosts. I'm Alexis.
I'm Grace.
And we are back to do the thing of telling true crime tales based on classic animated shows, or depending on how you look at it, perhaps reinterpreting classic animated shows as true crime tales with our own little dash of comedy sprinkled in between. If you have been sticking with us, I believe this is our 31st episode.
Yes, now. It is.
No big celebration this week like last week. It's whatever, 31. You're over the hump now. Who cares anymore? It's all downhill from here, right?
We wouldn't know yet, though, but you know.
We wouldn't know. Yeah, either. We'll know in like 2 years. Anyway, so thanks for joining us, y'all. If you've stuck with us for the past 30 episodes and are here for week 31 now, we hope that you've enjoyed it and that you've told all of your friends and family about us. But if you are new, we hope you stick around and you enjoy. Share, drop a like, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on social media pages at SatMoreandMist. I think that's all the generic things we have to do before we get into today's episode, which will be told by the wonderful Grace Cam.
Oh, hey. Hi. Yes, I do believe those are all the generic things. So we're just gonna get started. So, Alexis, isn't it interesting that in Courage, out of all of our shows we've done so far, seems to have the most villains who are kind of like morally gray, or at least we've like wildly speculated and painted them that way. Yeah. Most of the time, I would say, in the actual show, they're just evil. Yeah, but we've given them a little more of a background and color in which it could be argued at some point is morally gray. And today is no different. But this one is actually one that I don't have to really wildly speculate on about the morally grayness of it. Because today I'm going to put forward a story of survival, and one that begs the question, what would we do to survive? But before we get into that existential question and crisis, we're going on vacation. All right, we're leaving Nowhere, Kansas for this episode.
Whoa, which also that like never happens. So groundbreaking stuff here, friends and fans listening.
Yes. So before I tell you about vacation, do you want to guess where the Bag family would go on vacay?
I mean, I would assume somewhere tropical because their lives are bleak and miserable. But I don't know.
You know what? Funny enough, they went from Nowhere, Kansas to what I can only assume, and funny enough about your guess, to Nowhere, Antarctica.
Oh,
so
Jesus.
The opposite of the tropics.
You know, it looks kind of hot on the farmhouse most of the time. It's like desert, arid, no water or life anywhere. So I guess maybe, go with what you know, but also just the opposite, just not hot. Desert, desolate, but the other life, but freezing. Cool.
And that's pretty much exactly what they did, because we see the Bag family as this episode begins in a single igloo in the middle of a desolate tundra.
Like they really, really went there. Good Lord. It's like at least like a ski resort, but nope. Antarctica. I guess I don't have those there.
Yep. And I do want to side note of how did they get the money to go to Antarctica? Because I'm pretty sure it's so fucking expensive to go. Unless it's for research or science, it's and those are really expensive grants. Exactly. Maybe from Eustace's dead brother's cursed money. Maybe this is what they did with it from that horse episode.
Yeah. Or maybe the cursed brother had a grant. He just didn't get to use it before he died. And so now they were grandfathered in. Well, I'm still related. Yeah, because do they do commercial travel to Antarctica? I think you have to be on a research trip.
They do commercial travel, but I think per ticket it's $10,000 for a cruise. Yeah, it's I want to go so bad, and that's why I know it's so expensive.
Yeah, you're because I've looked into this. I know I'm saving for it.
Yeah, because nothing in my career will ever get me there. So This is
gotta do it on my own.
Anyway. And I cannot. So, but yeah, on that research grant note, unfortunately, the Back family did no research before embarking on this family trip because they are woefully unprepared. They do not have nearly enough layers to be surviving in the Arctic tundra or Antarctica tundra. Arctic is the other side, whatever. Although I will say Courage is wearing the cutest, like little, it's like this like blue winter coat that has like the white like fuzzy like trim around like the like cuffs and like down the side, and he's got his hood up with like a white like trim, like this huge like white fur trim around it, and you just see his little head popping out.
He's so adorable.
Yeah,
I love Courage so much. Okay,
it's so precious.
I can't wait to watch.
So he's kind of prepared for like the cold, and I guess maybe because he's a dog, he's got more fur and stuff. But Eustace and Muriel is they are not at all prepared. They're like wrapping themselves in like more blankets. They're struggling to like stoke this fire in this igloo, which I guess they spent all of the money to get there and not on accommodations.
I guess
something like that. We don't know.
We'll live off the land.
Yeah, which has nothing on it.
Land. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Muriel and Courage are like kind of enjoying the like struggle and like kind of enjoying like the challenges of like, ooh, we're like, ooh, look how rustic we are, and like, ooh, we're surviving, that kind of thing. But Eustace is, of course, complaining to no end and bossing them around to solve the problem. He's yelling at Muriel because the soup she makes immediately freezes. Yeah, again, no research was done into this, and they're very unprepared. And one of these demands that he's making, as per usual, on Muriel and Courage, is for Courage to go out and get more firewood in the middle of Antarctica somehow.
A fool's errand.
Yeah. He just wants to get Courage out of there and hope he like dies in the cold or something. But ever the good boy, Courage does go out to try and find some firewood, or at least something that they can burn and heat up their little igloo. Because, he knows Muriel's going to get cold too, so he's wanting to do it. And while he's out and about, just, like trudging along out in the snow and on the ice, he happens to run into a snowman that someone must have made.
Yeah.
Which
Sign
is actually like
life.
Yeah, it's like kind of like great news, because it's like, oh, maybe we actually do have neighbors out here. Maybe there's like, I don't know.
Or horrifyingly intelligent polar bears.
Those Coca-Cola polar bears.
Yeah.
They're up to no good.
Up to no good, damn it.
They're caffeinated on Coca-Cola all the time. They're on Coke. Wild.
Build it.
Build it faster. Better. So, again, Courage like makes that mental note of like, oh, maybe there's someone out here with like some more resources to help us out. But I need to solve this current problem of we need more fire, and then we can go, find the neighbors. And the snowman conveniently has got little stick arms because it's a snowman. Yeah, it's firewood. So firewood for now, until again they can get more resources. A little band-aid for the problem for the time being. So Courage plucks one of the wooden like stick arms from the snowman to bring back to his family. Unfortunately, immediately the snowman comes to life like Frosty the Snowman, except like super evil.
Oh,
so yeah, he like looms.
That's promising.
Yep, nope. He like looms over Courage and demands his arm back. Which I guess I said evil, but like he's just really mad, which makes sense because he was like sleeping, I guess, and then he got like
his arm ripped off.
Yeah. So like, it's kind of understandable that he's pissed.
Yeah, a little bit. That would not be a fun way to wake up from a nap.
Yeah. Like maybe evil was like an exaggeration. He's like a mad Frosty.
He like looks angry. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so Courage like gives it back and like runs home, respectfully gives it back again, as I would also do in that situation.
Misunderstanding. Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that I actually amputated your arm, but like, here you go.
Here.
Good luck.
He's like trying to stick it back on. It's like falls off.
Courage doesn't even stick around for that long. He's just like, sorry, bye.
My arm behind you.
Yeah, just like, I hope you can pick it up and reattach it yourself. See ya.
It's hard to do with one arm.
Yep. So he goes back and he, in his courage way, tries to tell Eustace and Muriel about the snowman situation, but gets reprimanded by Eustace and tells him to get back out there and get some firewood, damn it. So here is how we also see, again, how woefully unprepared the Bag family was for their vacation, because they also not only did no research into the climate, which was obvious because they were going to Antarctica. They should have known it was cold, whatever. But they also did no research into the history of this land or its peoples, because if they had, they would have known that this was the land of the snow people, just like the snowman who Courage had just run into and low-key ripped the arm off of. So Courage, not really, again, not knowing the full scope that this is an entire civilization that has already existed here, classic American move, more or less. There you go. Sorry. But Courage is like, okay, well, maybe I can make amends with this snowman for ripping his arm off. Maybe he'll be more chill because I gave it back. Maybe I can just get some resources from this snowman, and I don't know if there's more of them. So Courage follows the tracks of the snowman, which is just a single sled trail. It's just a snowman just moves forward on the snow.
Or feet as well.
Nope, it just looks like someone's okay. Yeah, just as if a sled was just dragged
a rectangle.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. And so it follows it for some time over glaciers and mountainous terrain until he comes upon this enormous icy mountain range that has a cave at the front entrance. Mm-hmm. And so Courage is well, this is actually kind of still promising. This looks a whole civilization could live in here. We could be saved right now. So he goes into the cave, and here is where we learn more about the occupants of these lands. And before we get into what Courage overhears and sees, I want to tell you about some real life situations in which, let's say, people were on some thin ice, if you will, in our actual world. First, I want to tell you, this is probably a story you already know, but we see what happens when humans are pushed to the edge for survival. And this is a very famous American tale of the Donner Party. Yes. So very long story short, the Donner Party was a group of pioneers trying to get to California in the 1840s. Due to multiple pieces of misleading advice and just dumb, stupid choices and delays, the party found themselves stranded in the mountains in the middle of winter, mountains of Utah and Nevada, with no food, resources, or idea what the fuck they should do. And eventually, in their desperation to survive, some turned to murder and cannibalism just to live one more day. And of the 87 people who originally made up the party, only 48 survived.
Wow.
Yes. And so next, I want to tell you about what happens when mysterious winter-fueled incidents take no prisoners, aka when Mother Nature takes charge. And this, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, the Dilworth Pass incident. Dilworth, it's a Russian word. I don't know how to say it. So this happened in 1959 in the Ural Mountains of Russia, which partially touched the Siberian region of Russia. So pretty hardcore fucking area.
Yeah.
When it comes to the weather, perhaps. So 9 highly experienced mountaineers in 1959 were in this pass, in the Ural Mountains, the Dilworth Pass, on a research expedition. But overnight, all hell broke loose, leading to all 9 of their deaths. But every single death was strange. While some were found missing shoes, well, first of all, none of them were by their actual tents, which had been torn open, sliced open. Some of them were found missing their shoes, missing their clothing, or not even with enough clothing on, which could somewhat be tied to hypothermia, because in a stage of hypothermia, you think you're overheating, and it's you take off all your clothes. But some of the rest of the party was found laying in a creek further away with missing eyes. One of them had a missing tongue. Others had missing eyebrows. And the Soviet authorities, say that the majority of the deaths were hypothermia or an avalanche that happened. Yes, that's their official.
Does one often lose their tongue in an avalanche?
Nope. Okay. Or your eyeballs or being plucked out.
I was like, I mean, maybe the pressure of, I don't know, but that
yes,
neither seem real anyway.
Yes, exactly. So that's the official stance. But of course, the story is filled with so many conspiracies ranging from cryptids to Soviet military interference and so on. But again, the official stance is avalanche.
Of course.
So it's a whole thing. You can dive into it. There's other podcasts that go into it. It's a whole wild fucking tale that I, as someone who lives in the mountains, am very fascinated by. So finally, I want to tell you about the combination of kind of like those two events of like what humans do when they're pushed to the brink of survival or like, the basic survival needs or I guess facing mortality and which again, the Donner Party, and what happens when Mother Earth snaps back, like maybe what happened in the Dilworth Pass incident. This one is called Climate Change in 2022.
Oh God.
And it's the combination of those two things.
The real killer. And displacer.
Last situation in which our snowman finds himself in, pushed to the brink of survival and facing forces greater than himself. Because we see Courage learn very quickly that this snowman, which I'll just call Snowman, is the very last of his kind. Yes. So they were once a great, numerous, and glorious peoples, all this other huge civilization that occupied these great icy halls. But at this point, all other snow peoples have melted into nothingness straight up due to global warming and climate change, because the writers of this show were ahead of their time. And they say that blatantly, that they all melted because of the weather. So I guess it was like 2001-ish. So
yeah, I was gonna say Al Gore ran for president. Yeah, like a pure.
Funny enough, I did look up when Inconvenient Truth came out to see if like the writers had seen it yet, but this was a couple years before that. So maybe Al Gore saw this episode
and knew. He was like, I know what my platform is. This is the lane I'm going to take. All the kids are hip with it. I got to appeal to the kids, right? 10-year-olds can vote. And
yeah, we're on it. So we see Snowman walking through the enormous halls, again, of what once was an advanced civilization. And he's mourning aloud the lost brothers and sisters and family and friends who all melted literally right before his very eyes, one by one, with no way to stop it. And he explicitly mourns a dear friend and snow woman, presumably his own wife or girlfriend or partner back when she was still alive. And I have to assume that melting was probably a very like slow and painful death, one that like you couldn't pinpoint who it was going to take next. Like it wasn't just like an overnight thing. People were like, or snow people were very slowly melting. And Snowman watched hundreds of thousands of his fellow snow people disappear with every degree that the climate around them changed. And again, that was not wild speculation. Snowman fully monologues that he's the last of his people due to the heating and their melting. But I do speculate that Snowman didn't sit by idly as his people died. I believe that back in, the grand civilization that they once occupied, that he was a scientist and dedicated every second of his every waking hour trying to find a solution to save his people. I think that this civilization collaborated, among biologists, doctors, sociologists, teachers, politicians, all of the above. It was all stick hands on deck, wooden hands on deck, if you will. He's picturing how they're trying to do all this little wood hands.
Like writing equations with like little sticks. But also, no, I was really wondering where they got all the sticks from. But
unsure.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, don't care.
Maybe they were so advanced they learned to grow trees in Antarctica.
True. They probably had like a biodome down there. Let's be real.
I mean, probably. and again, trying to help and save the snow people. But I think that his grand solution and research simply wasn't quick enough to save them. Like once this, human-caused virus hit, it just took over and they couldn't work quick enough. Science sometimes takes a while to catch up, and they couldn't work quick enough to save everybody. Yeah. But I do believe that Snowman was able to survive simply because he hung on to the last snowflake of hope, that he had some shred of hope in him still. But with each passing day since the passing/melting of all of his peoples and loved ones, this shred of hope was waning. These happy memories of a long, snowy life lived were turning into nightmares that I think melted all around him. And he wanted to bring his people back, but couldn't. He wanted to then stop the heating of the world, maybe, but couldn't, just as one sole snowman. And with nothing else, he at least wanted to stop himself from melting, but realized that he couldn't even do that. And at this point, I think he was simply biding his time until the heat took him next, which is why he was out on the open tundras when Courage found him. I think at this point, he was just ready to give up, to give in to climate change and death, ready to just call it with nothing else to live for. Ready, that is, until he realized the presence of the vacationing, unsuspecting Bag family. And I have to admit something here. Somewhat similar, actually, to your last episode in which you said, oh, yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about the mob stuff because I love the mob stuff. I just wanted to talk about the Donner Party and Dilatov Pass incident because I think they're really interesting, batshit crazy stories that happen, and they just happen to be in like brutal winter environments. So I just wanted to talk about them.
Cool.
Yeah, as like a lead into like the climate change thing, as like some extra spice.
No rules.
Yeah, there are no rules. But I did realize, that maybe subconsciously I ended up putting those things in to actually show the stark contrast that perhaps in some way humans are much weaker creatures than a cryptid monster like the Snowman is. See, instead of turning to brutality or letting the elements get the better of them when they were all dying off, his people and himself turned to science to ensure their survival and believed in science.
Wow. How dare they?
How dare they? And seeing Courage and the Bag family encouraged him to pick up his research once again to at least ensure his survival so he could continue the rest of his research to maybe again stop the melting and maybe one day bring his peoples back. So quickly, Courage, again, who came into the castle civilization ice cave things.
So is this, you said it's like in a mountain, or is it like actually like a castle looking thing?
So it's in these like huge, like very peaked mountains that are just made of ice. So as you go in, like the caverns are like all decorated. Like there's one low-key very sad cavern that he walks through, and it's like hundreds of like portraits of like his people, and that's where he is like mourning all of them and like stopping at each portrait to like talk about who they were. That's when he stops at like the Snow Woman to like oh
my god, this is not a villain. I'm not seeing this as a villain at all yet.
Right, exactly. Like he straight up is just like my like the halls of my dead brethren here. So yes, so V low-key very sad. So again, Courage eventually loses him kind of in the halls, but not before Courage heard the monologue and saw a snippet of what this research was. And more importantly, Courage realized that this snowman wasn't just like a creature looking for its next meal to survive. This was a desperate creature, and desperate creatures will do anything to survive. So Courage is like, this desperation sounds like no good. I'm going to get back to my fam just in case, strength in numbers. I'm not going to ask this guy for help because he's a little sketch.
Good call.
Unfortunately, though, by the time Courage gets back to the igloo, Muriel and Eustace are nowhere to be found.
Oh.
Yes, but Courage, ever the good boy, does see the familiar Snowman tracks that came up to the igloo and leaving the igloo. So little Courage has to turn his tail right back around and go back to the ice mountain. He should have just stayed.
Yeah, he's like, that's such a long hike, which also I'm like, how did that's a fast moving snowman.
Yeah. Like this is his environment.
True.
Like
very true. Yes. And it's like running water on water, like compared to running water on, I don't know, fucking stuff. Anyway, I'm not.
Yes. Somehow the elements, water, ice.
It works. Air, it's like a launch pad for the snowman.
Yes, exactly. I didn't get into the snow science here. I'm sorry.
Other
it's like how avalanches move quickly. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Maybe it has nothing to do with gravity.
Probably at all.
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not a scientist.
I'm not a snowflake scientist. I tried to be, and I'm not. Okay. Stop telling me you're disappointed in me. So, though Courage again goes back to the igloo, nowhere to be found. He's like, all right, I got to go back and see what's going on. This research I got a snippet of seemed nefarious, and I'm not sure what's going on. But unfortunately, again, by the time he goes back to the igloo, Snowman is already running the experiment on Eustace. So going back into second.
Okay. So Courage, he's got some time.
Yeah. Muriel is still there. So again, who we really care about and who Courage really cares about. So back to some wild speculation here. That Snowman, I think, back in his people's day, was actually a genome scientist, I think. Mm-hmm. And it was these skills that really pushed his research. And, it led to some of the collaboration that the Snowman had with other snow peoples as they were all dying. But I think Snowman, being a genome scientist, thought that the answer lay in, what their DNA was made out of. And if I could change our DNA somehow, could we somehow survive this? But obviously, research on that level of things is very complicated. It was the late 90s. We've come a long way since then, and they're snow people. So, I don't know if they cross-collaborated. They live in the middle of
nowhere, Antarctica.
Yeah, exactly. And so, again, he was trying to push this research forward. But part of the problem that he faced while these people were still alive is that because they were kind of like an insular community of just snow people, he couldn't actually fully test his theory in the way that would have proved it and been able to save all of his people. See, Snowman identified a very important missing gene that snow people have that humans do have. And that is the anti-melting gene, as they call it.
That is how it is defined in the textbooks.
Yes, it's very scientific. Nice. Yes.
Thank God we have that gene, by the way.
But truly, we would not be
the
here.
Bullet.
We dodged a very, very hot, melting bullet. And so, again, because there were no humans around as all of his people were dying, he couldn't test this theory of, basically he wanted to see, can I extract the human anti-melting gene, learn more about it, and somehow implant it into our DNA in some way, shape, or form and give us this power? Yes, Alexis.
It's funny because the answer is just don't be made out of snow.
Wow, Alexis.
Sorry. But for them though, that's a foreign concept because they are made out of snow. So they're like, what the fuck is it in your genes that is not making you snow?
How? And also that the gene is just the melting or anti-melting gene. It's one single strand of the DNA that says
that is keeping us from being snowmen.
Yeah. And just melting on the spot. We have one strand, in the thousands and thousands and thousands. But we all have it as humans.
We all have it. Yeah, all 8 billion of us are already. I love when we talk about biology and stuff on this podcast.
Because we know.
Right, because we have no fucking clue what we're talking about, and it's just so funny every time.
We're like, extract DNA and put it into our DNA.
Yeah, certainly. Not the anti-melting gene. But and also because like you use the word genome and stuff, like, oh wow, yeah, she knows what she's talking about.
Well, also that we talk about it as like, instead of being like, oh yes, well, I think this scientist should actually like create a medicine in which like you would take and slowly like adopt this or like adjust your chemical or like how like as if it was like a hormone or like other chemicals in your brain. But instead we're like, it makes sense that he would implant DNA into DNA. Like Jurassic Park shit or something. Yes.
Oh man!
You know, Lenny is screaming right now.
She is. Like, oh my gosh!
Our teacher friend who actually knows these answers.
Yeah, it's like none of this isn't how any of this works.
You idiots!
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know them.
Yeah, that's
anyway.
Fine. We never said we're experts on anything, and genome science is at the top of that list.
The top of the list of things we know jack shit about.
And that I didn't even look at Wikipedia about.
Oh, you did?
I literally had to Google.
Wow, that's even more impressive.
I did have to Google, is it like a genomist? Like what is like a genome scientist called?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was just like, genome scientist.
You didn't even use whatever Google told you.
The first 8 things were like, what is genome science? What do they do? And I was like, no, I wanted to know if they're called biologists. Like, what is the ology of it?
Yeah, you're like, this is taking too long.
Yeah. I gotta get back to writing this episode right now. Cool. So, anyways, our genome scientist, Snowman, who had maybe this is how advanced their research was, that they knew that you could change your DNA somehow.
True.
So again, the knowledge of this, though, again, wasn't enough to save the snow people because of the lack of humans in their lands. And thus he didn't know how else to like harness this anti-melting gene if he couldn't at the very least study it hands-on. But through years of isolation, he did come to the conclusion. Yeah. I didn't realize I made that pun.
You that was your joke from weeks ago, though.
Yeah,
I just recycled it. Yeah, because I missed that joke in that episode, so you came up with it, and now the tables have turned. I'm serving it right back to you. Look at how great we are, you guys.
Wow. Everyone's like, we've already heard that joke, and I'm like dying right now. I'm like, what's so good? Nice.
Yeah. It was your joke. Yeah.
So basically I'm laughing at my own joke right now.
We just use the same name instead of Darkwing Duck in isolation, Courage and Isolation. Don't actually do that, but it would be fucking hilarious.
Isolation part 2.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like very true. Wow. Maybe this episode was inspired by DW. Anyway.
Who knows? So again, through years of his isolation, he was losing all of this hope. There was no way to even like continue this research without an actual human around to study the gene. But again, all of a sudden, the presence of these humans reignited his hope to find out, at the very least, what's making them tick? What's making them not melt? And what's up with this gene? And like,
these
what's
warm
going
bodies?
On? Yeah, exactly. What are you? Touching them slowly, like poking them
with the stick.
Yeah. So, and he decided, because I think, and obviously our vast knowledge of genome science, the only way to study it is to extract it from the subject matter.
That's what movies tell me.
Yeah, that's what this show told me. And so Eustace is first up to be the guinea pig for this gene extraction experiment. And Snowman, this experiment that's going on, is already performing by the time Courage gets there. But I can only describe as like a child-friendly, because it's a kid's show, lobotomy.
Oh, Jesus.
So for those who don't know real quick, because I didn't write this down, but I guess I should explain real quick. Basically, lobotomies were like, I want to say back in the day, but really not that. It's like the 50s through like even 70s thought process that like anyone who had a mental illness, like a lot of times they just called it like hysteria or like a blanket schizophrenia. And it was really just like, this woman spoke out of turn. She's crazy. Lobotomize her.
She's showing her ankles. Lobotomize this woman.
Yes. Where basically, I won't get too graphic because like actually listening to the details of lobotomies are fucking disgusting and I cannot listen to them. But essentially it's fucking with like your prefrontal cortex of your brain because that's what they thought was going to help people with mental illness. It did not. It basically makes people zombies and fucks up their entire life. But I say this is a child-friendly lobotomy because Snowman's extraction method is basically like attaching like a faucet to their like frontal cortex, like their prefrontal like lobe, like on their forehead, and slowly like extracting part of basically like their brain. It's like their DNA, quote unquote. Yeah. But like, yeah, he's basically like lobotomizing them. Because maybe that's where the anti-melting gene lays. Like, I don't know how it's like, I don't know, what is it? Hippocampus is where your memory is.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. I think that's like back here. And like prefrontal cortex is like cognition, maybe. I don't really know what it is. But maybe
science,
that's where anti-melting gene lay.
Sure.
According to Snowman.
Yes, or maybe his understanding of the human body is like a little off, but he'll find out soon enough. Yeah.
Yes. Well, we actually find out very quickly that maybe our understanding of the human body is wrong, and Snowman's is right.
If it's between the two of us, most likely. Yes.
Literally, this episode displays.
Please, Snowman, tell us how our bodies work.
Because we do see Snowman turn on the faucet and the anti-melting gene, which is just like green ooze, slowly drops from the faucet out of Eustace's brain. Yeah. And this, to his horror, is exactly what's happening as Courage arrives. But while he's trying to, he like immediately screams, but Snowman immediately is able to capture him. He basically like hits some of the cave or something, and all of these like icicle stalagmites, stalactites, the ones that are up,
stalactites.
Okay, well, they knock down. Thank you. Off the see, we are scientists.
Do you want to know my trick? Sorry, quick tangent. And I guess this is a teaching moment for everyone. The way I remember, stalagmites has an M, and so they come up out of the ground and make little M's. And then T's, I don't know. You just remember stalactites are the other ones. Yeah. Watch that still be wrong and I'm getting them mixed up. I'm pretty sure that's right, or else that would be a weird way to remember it if not, but whatever.
Either way, I'm sure someone will let us know.
It's either a tight or a mite.
We got 50% chance here, right? And so luckily Courage is able to escape this icicle enclosure pretty quickly. But again, the gene and the DNA is already coming out of Eustace's frontal cortex, etc., frontal lobe, and oozing out. Yeah. However, this is happening. Science is happening right before our very eyes. This is the most powerful faucet in the world, clearly. So Courage, unsure what else to do, is just like, well, at least I got to stop Snowman, then I can figure out reversing this faucet. So mainly I say this because Courage just the brave boy just launches himself directly at Snowman, but because he's made of snow, just flies through him. And you just see like the whole of like where Courage was, like in the middle section of the Snowman. But there's still like a force from impact there. Yeah. And Snowman does kind of like tumble away. And it actually causes Eustace to kind of like tumble back from like kind of the force of the chaos. And the gene that was falling out of the faucet starts flying across the room. And Snowman does not care about Courage right now, does not give a shit anymore about the humans. He needs to save that gene before it like hits the ground and dissipates. So Snowman is like screaming and like trying to scramble up to go get it, because this is like what he's been waiting for. This is what could save himself and maybe continue his research to bring his people back. Courage takes advantage of this distraction, grabs Muriel and Eustace, I guess like hot wires a sled or something like that, like a motorized sled, and books it out of there, I guess, to like, I don't know, maybe go find, like, going back to their igloo is pointless. So I guess go like find like the small airplane or like cruise ship that brought them there. I don't know where they're going.
Hijack it if necessary and get back to nowhere.
Yeah, nowhere to nowhere. Maybe it's a one-way ticket to nowhere or direct flight nowhere to nowhere. But unfortunately for Snowman, Eustace's anti-melting gene hits the ground before he can catch it, dissipating it and making it yet another thing that disappeared right before Snowman's eyes. And this is the final straw for him. He is now on the bag's tail in moments, moving with a speed and fury matched by only someone with nothing to lose, which at this point he truly has lost it all. This was his last hope. So as Snowman nears the sled, Courage thinks pretty quickly. They're again like on glaciers, like going in and out of mountains on glaciers, and Courage is like, all right, yeah, this guy is gaining fast, clearly this is his terrain. We're on glaciers. What's underneath glaciers? Bunch of water. Let's cut him off. And so very smartly, Courage starts like hammering into the ice and like breaking them off into like their own. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Their own patch of ice. But while sending the Bag family floating hopefully to their ride home, it sends Snowman splashing into the freezing water because he wasn't able to stop himself, which quickly somehow, and going back to that ice and water physics that I didn't look up for Alexis for this story, a block of ice forms around him entirely and freezes him there, basically imprisoning him until that block of ice melts. And before you think everyone rides off into the sunset with a job well done, I do know that Snowman survives this encounter and his mission does not end, because he does make another appearance in Courage that perhaps one day we'll get to. But if you also remember, Alexis, that Eustace lost his anti-melting gene. So as the Bag family floats away, the sun rises high into the sky and Eustace melts. What? He just like melts onto the block of ice into water.
Okay. So he melts like into water. Not that that makes sense, but it's less graphic than like his skin like melting off and like bubbling like and shit. Movie. Yeah, that's what I imagined. I was like, did they really show that?
No, he becomes a puddle of water with like his glasses and like hat, and Courage like sponges it up, and then you like see them at home, and Eustace, I'm pretty sure, is in like, he's now just like a cup of water, and they like put the glasses over the water and they're just like watching TV.
They'll grow back eventually. Just bring in Shirley. She'll work her magic and
maybe.
Yeah, she hates
it'll like be a while though, I'm sure Muriel will take their time.
Yeah. Back. They like accidentally spill the water, like, oh shit, Courage, get another sponge.
Yeah. Oh, we have to go to the store to get one. Okay.
That's like a whole thing because we live in the middle of nowhere. We'll go tomorrow. As long as it doesn't, he won't stain the floors, right?
Yeah, it's just water. So that's it. That's the end. It's a really short episode, but this was also, by the way, season 1, episode 8A, called The Snowman Cometh.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I kind of remember the snowman monster. I do. Yes. So that's good job. Very good job. Amazing. Yes, and also, I think my next episode is the episode right before this. You said 8A?
Yeah.
Nice. Cool. It is.
Is yours episode 7?
7B, yeah.
Oh,
my next one. Yeah. So
Mm.
for those listening, stick around because next week, I guess we're going to
Sweet.
do reverse time travel and do the episode that came out right before the episode Grace
We're gonna
did.
see why the Bag family needed a vacation.
Holy shit, you're right. Oh my God, you will see why after. Oh my God, yeah. Come back next week, everyone, to figure out why the Bag family ended up going on vacation in Grace's episode today, because it's a good continuation. Great job, though. Great job. I love that. Again, us like casually flaunting our science knowledge and how much we know about human anatomy and human biology, is a thing that exists.
Turned off this episode already.
Yeah. They're actually writing complaint letters as we speak. You guys are spreading misinformation.
To like the Scientific Journal of America to make sure we never get published in it.
Because we've been trying to.
With these episodes, we're just
we just like send them the links to these. Like, guys, we've got groundbreaking stuff going on in these podcasts. Please publish. At least make it a note at the end of the whatever journal. Somewhere.
Perfect. Mm-hmm. Well, between now and next week, when we see again why the Bag family had to go on vacation to nowhere in Antarctica.
In their last episode or our last episode.
Yes. Next week will be our last Courage episode. And then we have a very special, fun little arc that we'll be doing after Courage. So between now and next week, Alexis, who should our viewers/listeners tell about this show?
Well, I don't know the scientific term, shocker, because I didn't look it up. But tell someone who is researching glaciers in the Arctic / the Antarctic, whichever side they're on. Again, I'm not sure. Glaciologist, is that real? Or iceologist. Honestly, in reality, pretty sure it's just a geologist who then just specializes in like Arctic temperatures.
I feel like I should know the answer to that then.
Where's Justin at too? Call him. Does he know?
A geologist who studies icy planets.
Literally,
I don't know.
Literally, this is her fiance. Y'all, literally, he does the thing I'm saying, just not on Earth, which makes it even cooler, by the way. Tell AKA. So Grace, your job is you just tell Justin, who already listens to this podcast, go into what's like his Rolodex. Now I feel like I'm in the 20s. I'm sure he knows a bunch of other ice geologists. Tell one of them.
Nice. I think after you tell someone that, I think you should go and tell. I'm just thinking this, every time you say iceologist, I just kept thinking Ice Baby. So you should tell Vanilla Ice about this show.
Okay.
You should just tag him. I don't know, does he have Twitter or social media?
Probably. He's trying to stay relevant, I'm sure. Yeah. So like tell Vanilla Ice or like if you're at an event and someone's playing Ice Baby, tell the DJ. So that's kind of a twofer. But there you go. If you can't find Vanilla Ice, then tell Iced Tea.
Yes. Tell any rapper with the name Ice in their name.
Yeah. Boom.
Tag them, tag us, Satmore and Mist.
Yes.
Let them know. And until then, we'll see y'all next week for our last, for now, Courage episode.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on, so just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Satmore and Mist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.